All right, our next speaker is going to be Alan Schreiber. He'll be discussing fungicide decline curves for blueberry to assist growers in meeting MRLs.
If any of you were in for my talk yesterday, I spent quite a bit of time about export market development. This is actually a presentation on one of the elements of our strategy to develop Asian export markets all over the world. I just want to put a plug in at 11 o'clock. I think in this room, we're going to have a keynote speaker. We have two guys from Bryant Christie International. They just walked in the room from Seattle. And so 11 o'clock, is that right, Chris? 11 o'clock, they're going to talk about marketing opportunities for berries in other countries. So I was asked to talk about residue decline curves for blueberries. That's a Blueberry Commission funded project. I'm going to throw in raspberries because it's a blueberry and raspberry meeting. We also got funded by the Red Raspberry Commission. And it's very, very interesting when you see the two crops compared. This is an example of different trading partners that we have. Here's the insecticide, fungicides. And anywhere you see a red mark, that is a country we can't go into if we use this product. For example, we can't go into Canada or European Union if you want to use bifenthrin. If you see in the blue, that is an area where we can't, where the US tolerance is 13, but in Canada it's 6. And so it's worrisome. And it makes me think that maybe we shouldn't be using Pristine if you have the possibility of going into Canada, because their MRL is 16 and ours is 19. So anywhere you see a blue or you see a red, a light blue or a red, that is what we call a trade irritant or an obstacle. And there are lots of blueberries that we could be selling, but we can't because of MRL issues. So the theory behind this, doing these residue decline curves, is if we apply fungicides in a manner according to the label, we sample the fruit, we send it to analytical lab, we can track the decline of residues over time, and we can figure out how many days after harvest, how many days before harvest we apply the product and get a pesticide residue that is low enough to go into some other countries. So if Pristine, we want to get down to 6 to go into Canada, maybe if we wait 10 days or 5 days, our residues will decline and we can ship to Canada. This is not something is rocket science. Hops, apples, pears, tree fruit, mint, and we have already done this kind of work. We've done it for blueberry insecticides, and now we're going to do it for fungicides. And we did it for fungicides for blueberries in 2016, and for also for raspberries. For blueberries, we had 3 sites. We had Franklin County in Eastern Washington, where we had Duke. Site 2 was Whatcom County, which is blue crop. Site 3 was Skagit, Chandler. The fungicides that we used were picked by the industry. We use the same product at each location. We use the same rate, the same style of application, equipment, and try to keep everything the same. The difference would primarily be location and the difference in time and the varieties. This is actually a picture from last year when we did insecticides. This is Hollis, who was just up here talking in Skagit. You collect the samples, you send them off to a pesticide lab. We work with synergistic pesticide labs, a really nice lab to work with, and you get this. So this is azoxystrobin. Again, blueberries, that's a bound, 15.5 ounces, a 0-day PHI. And just so you know, the rest of my talk is just slide after slide after slide. It looks just like these. And so you see some differences between these, but if you look on the scale 1.51 to 0.5 parts per million, these really are actually pretty close together. And if you look at what the US tolerance is at 5, our residues are all below 2. So we're well below that. If you look at Canada at 3. So what this tells us is you can apply this product according to the label, the US label, and your residues are going to be below what is required to go into Canada. So this suggests we can go into Canada. You go over here to Korea, and that's 1. So according to these data, you're going to have to wait 2 weeks. So if you apply a bound 2 weeks before harvest, your residues should allow you to go into Korea. So you get how that works? So Boscalid. Boscalid is one of the 2 products in Pristine. It has a 0-day PHI. Look at this. The tolerance for the US is 13. Look at that, no problem. Canada is 6, no problem. Korea, no problem. Taiwan, no problem. According to this test, our residues are so low that we can go into these countries. We are probably can use this product and go into markets that previously we thought we could not go into. Now there's going to be a huge caveat at the end about this, and I'll tell you what that caveat is we only have 1 year's of data on this, and we need more than 1 year. This is Captan. Captan, see, we put on 2.5 quarts. The US limit is 20. We're below 20. We can go into, but Canada is 5. When do we get to 5? Doesn't look good. So we probably still need to not use Captan if it's going into Canada. Can't win them all. This is Cyprodinil. Cyprodinil is one of the 2 products in Switch, 0-day PHI. The US tolerance is 3. Hong Kong is 0. Korea is 1. Might be a risky move to go into Korea with Switch. However, we only have 1 data point out of 2 that's that high. We need to do this some more. This might be a data outlier. This bar here is your confidence interval. It shows you there's a lot of variation around this number. So if we repeat this and all the rest of them are down here, then we might be able to go into Korea. But as any good researcher, I will say more research is needed. Here's Finheximid or Elevate. We're at 5 for the US. We're not even close to 5. And Canada is 4. So this shows us that we can use Elevate and have confidence to ship to these trading partners. Fludeoxonil, 1/2 of Switch. The US is 2. Nothing is below 2, but of course, that's not a problem because everyone else is at 2. Here's isofetamide or Kinja. Hey, Leighton, get off your phone, answer my question. What's the PHI for, anyone know what the PHI is for Kinja? How much? 1 day? Thank you, Leighton. So 1 day PHI right here. Ours is 5. We're well below 5. But one thing you notice the difference in this fungicide than the others had a steeper decline. This one does not decline as much. The other problem that we have is MRLs have not been set for most countries. Korea has it. So this is a real obstacle to the use of Kinja that we now have for Section 18. This is an important product for if you have fungicide resistance. This is one that will work on Pristine, Switch, Elevate resistant botrytis. But if you're going to use this, you can only ship your berries domestically or to Korea until those others get established. Here's Rovrol. Rovrol is used as a high rate, and you look at the 15 is the tolerance in parts per million. We're well below that. We're below it for Australia. We can't go into Canada. There's just no tolerance for it in Canada. But Hong Kong, for Taiwan, we got to do some more work to see whether we can go into Taiwan with Rovrol. Pyraclostrobin, the other half of Pristine. The US is 4. Here's Hong Kong. We can go into Hong Kong. We can go into Taiwan. we can go into Korea if you wait, 10 days. So with this data, it really opens up some of the products that we can use. Now, the Red Raspberry Commission funded a similar project, but there was a twist to it. Because 90% or more of the raspberries are grown in Whatcom County, we decided to do both our trials in Whatcom County. Blueberries are more diffuse. They're grown throughout the state. We have more growing regions represented. So we need to put them in different locations because we had different locations. They were applied at different times, different weather equipment. And so there was more variation, more variables in the blueberry trial. So that was, we call that the data we got from that was considered to be a little more messy. With raspberries, one location was Wakefield, the other was Meeker. So that was the big variable. We did two different varieties, but the same product, the same day, 15 miles apart or so. Same equipment, everything was the same except for the variety. So the differences that you're going to see should pretty much be due to the variety. And so there should be less variation. And look at this. So here's azoxystrobin. This is a bound. The US tolerance is 5, Korea is 3. We didn't even get close to 3 on this. I just want to point out something interesting. Keep an eye on, there's a very distinctive shape here. So keep an eye on this shape. Does that look familiar? That's boscalid. You could almost superimpose those. Again, Meeker a little higher residues, Wakefield a little lower. Again, the residues are below everything. US is 10, Korea is 5. We never got close to 5 on these. Captan, kind of again, Meeker higher, Wakefield a little bit lower. The US is 25. Still that problem with Canada and Korea. So Captan is going to be an issue in the export market. So Prodinil, again, 1/2 of the constituents to switch. Same damn pattern. It's just amazing how consistent this is. This is what we call a really pretty data set. But again, we're below everything except for Korea. We're below Taiwan. But if you wait long enough, if you can wait 10 days, if you could go into Korea. Again, Meeker higher than Wakefield. The residues for Elevate much lower, except for Taiwan, where they just don't, there's no tolerance for it. This is a product, I'm not going to tell you the brand name. It is not registered on raspberries, but it will be. So we tested this. So when it does get registered, we'll have the data for it. And they're still working on some of the tolerances. But for example, you got 5 in the US. We're not close to 5. Korea has 2. So you'll be able to go into Korea with this product. Fumoxidone is Tanos. Again, we're lower than, so we're well below the 10. I don't know if we'll be able to go into Korea at 2. This is one that hangs around for a long time. Fludioxonil, 1/2 a switch. All of these are similar to the US here, but we're well below all of those. Again, Meeker is higher than Wakefield. Meeker higher than Wakefield. Luna Tranquility, not yet registered, but it will be registered, and you guys will love this product. When we look at the efficacy data at my talk this afternoon, you'll see why. But again, Meeker higher than Wakefield. Look at this, nothing above 1 part per million. So even though the US is 5, we can go into Japan and Korea. Here's Rovrol, problem child. The residues are a lot lower than the US tolerance, but it's might be a little tricky to get into Japan and Taiwan with Rovrol. Here's Kinja. We still have the problem of we don't have tolerances in these other countries, but it does decline over time. Pyraclostrobin, 1/2 of Pristine. This is that same pattern, Meeker, and then Wakefield. It goes below 1 pretty easy. So we can go into Korea, we can go into Canada, we can go into Taiwan with this. Pymethronyl is the other part of, no, that's Scala. That's a new fungicide that's coming. Again, you know, if we want to go into Australia, it would not preclude us from going into Australia, it would not preclude us to go into Japan because the residues are much lower than what any of those tolerances are. I'll just point out, we have iprodione for blueberry and raspberries, and it's kind of interesting to see on blueberries and raspberries, the residues are about the same regardless of the crop. So that was all just pretty interesting. I went to the next slide. I just cut and pasted from an email from the lab. So we send all of our samples down to this lab, and this is a lab that does a lot of residue testing for growers. And it's supposedly not cool to put a slide up and then read the whole thing to the audience because it's supposedly insulting, like you can't read it yourself. But on this one, I'm going to. As we work with a lot of growers and processors, and this is a cut and paste, we see lots of real world residues bound for overseas. Mostly see lots of pristine and switch in berries. After that, it could be a bound, Captain in blueberries, and elevate. Blueberries are lucky to not have too many restrictions for export, especially if growers can wait before they ship to Taiwan, Hong Kong, or Korea. Based on this data, for example, growers using pristine need to wait 5 days to get into Hong Kong and Taiwan, and 7 days for Korea due to the pyraclostrobin, or that's switch. Likewise, no, I said that wrong. That's pristine. Likewise, growers using switch need to wait 3 days to get into Korea and should not use it all if going to Hong Kong because of cyprodinil and switch. Could be 10 days to go to Korea if they use a bound. So based on the work that they've done and from this research, they're already starting to talk about where we're going to go with this. And that is, we will end up with recommendations. If you're going to go to this country, you need to increase your pHI maybe from 0 to 1 or 0 to 7. Raspberries growers have it much worse. Taiwan is a bear with several residues. Void. Korea is tough, again, to pyraclostrobin and cyprodinil. I will tell you that raspberries do have a bigger challenge. The MRLs are much less favorable. And one of the points I want to make was a lot of this work was done with Tom Walters. He is a great research partner for me. And I'm just passing on what they said was interesting first year data, looking forward to add to it. By the way, I should let you know, Tom Walters, great to work with, very professional, great communication, not to mention samples, showed up in great shape. So I'm thanking Tom Walters on this project. So in summary, very encouraging first year of data. I kind of blew through this because I don't want people to focus on it too much and get too much of opinion, because we need more work on this. But I'm going to tell you that raspberry data where the lines were so similar from product to product, you do not get such a fine data set like that very often. But this is great and encouraging data. However, it's dangerous to rely on this for a single year. We do it next year, and who knows, maybe the residue levels are higher. We need at least one more year of data is needed for raspberries. 2 years are needed for blueberries due to the higher variation in the data. Another comment is, I've never heard of this until recently, that there are being some violative detections for herbicides in blueberries. Maybe we might need to include herbicides in this project as we go forward. And one question that people have is, why would Meeker be consistently higher than Wakefield? And so I sent my data set out to some people in the industry and say, what's your opinion on this? And I think there's a consensus opinion. It has to do with the way that the two varieties present the fruit. Meeker is more exposed. Wakefield is a little bit deeper in the canopy or more vigorous leaf cover, which may block some of the residue on the fruit, is our working theory. But as any good researcher who works for hire says, my final bullet point is more work is needed. Imagine that, Daryl. No, because we knew you were going to use it.
There, we got it. Okay, I got two questions. This is for me as an old timer. This has been a very beautiful presentation, and I thank you.
Okay,
How do you get your MRL charts from our own records? Is there a way to get them?
Yeah, that's out there. That information is available. The MRLs by country. You know, if I can get that for you.
Okay, I appreciate it because I ship into Canada, and so
Yeah.
and they ship over to Japan and all that. So this is really important for my records.
I'm not going to fax it to you though. You're going to have to check your email.
Are you going to send it to me by mail?
I'm going to email it to you.
Okay. Well, don't do downloads. I don't do that. It's got to be fully mail checked.
You got to work with me on this.
Now, the other one is, as we take these charts, do these countries liable just out of the clear blue change their MRLs? So,
Well, I'll tell you what.
Stay up with it?
The two gentlemen right behind you get paid to deal with that issue. I don't know if it's out of the blue, but these MRLs get changed, get raised, get lowered all the time around the world. And the Blueberry Commission, the Raspberry Commission, the Oregon Blueberry Commission paid Bryant Christie, and then that got transferred to some other organizations. But for blueberries and raspberries, those two gentlemen work for an organization that monitor MRLs around the world. And anytime there's a change in blueberries, anytime there's a change in raspberries, Henry Beerlink and I get notified by this, and we respond to this. So I'm going to ask one of you guys in the back, just real quick. Is it Alice? Is Elise? When she sends us those notifications, when we get those notifications, and I say, that's too low. We're at 5 and they're going to do 1, and we comment on that. What's the likelihood our comment will affect a change?
Depends on the market. Some markets will make an adjustment. Others
Don't care.
Like Europe, don't care. So it depends. You know, Canada will respond sometimes. Taiwan will respond sometimes. And to answer the gentleman's question as well, if you want the latest MRLs, as in up to date this morning, globalmrl.com is where you should go and sign up, and it keeps everything up to date for all markets. And I learned last night that blueberries is the most searched commodity on globalmrl.com. It's a database we host.
Who runs that database?
We do.
Right.
But you don't have to pay to use it.
Right. So that's globalmrl.com?
Yes.
All right. Okay. Another question? Microphone guy, question down there.
You want to watch the board?
While we're moving the microphone, we've got a question from Prosser. Because yesterday, Kinja was shown to have low efficacy. Why continue recommendations for its use?
The low efficacy of Kinja was for mummyberry, and the section 18 we have for Kinja is for botrytis, and it's very efficacious against botrytis. The data from yesterday was against mummyberry, and it's never been tried against mummyberry, and it has moderate activity. We had a little bit of data on botrytis, but it's a very low pressure situation. This afternoon, I'm going to be giving a talk on efficacy of these products in a conventional trial, and you'll see some more positive data on Kinja for botrytis in this afternoon's talk. Question over here?
So Alan, for fruit destined for the frozen market that's going to be washed before marketing, we should see a reduction in those residues. Can you comment on your thoughts on that?
Yes. I was involved in, I'm not kidding you, a secret project in the tree fruit industry several years ago. And their study shows that washing fruit doesn't really reduce pesticide residues. And I would not count on a wash to reduce that. Now, that's an oversimplistic statement. For example, did you put a sticker on it? Did you put a penetrant on it? If you put a sticker, if you put a penetrant, that residue is going to be largely in the fruit and it's not going to get washed off. Now, it also depends on the product. Some are more water soluble than others. So there's not a good answer for that, but it would be a fool to think that you are going to fix a residue issue by washing your fruit. Now, I don't know if there's anyone here that has a better opinion or a different opinion on that, but I mean, hey, I can tell you in Eastern Washington, we do overhead irrigation every day in August, and I guarantee you that does not get rid of pesticide residues. Ask any potato grower. Okay, Daryl, you said you only had 2.
Third one now. That on Captan, I understand that probably its efficiency of protecting your fruit from fungus or whatever is only about 24 hours. So why would it have to go out that many days if the strength of it to protect the crop from the disease?
I think it has a longer period of residual control than 24 hours. But I don't have a good answer for you. It just, there's a lot of product that goes out and it does not, for whatever reason, it doesn't degrade very fast. So it's got a longer residual activity than 24 hours. But the thing is, Captan is not a particularly efficacious product to start with. What's good about that is it's got something called a multi-site mode of action. So it's very difficult for products to, for fungicides, for fungi, for fungal diseases to develop resistance against it. So we put it in there for resistance management. It's on a good day, it's not particularly effective to start with. So it doesn't take very long for it to not become effective, but the residues are still there. That's the best answer I can give you. That's probably its best fit as a tank mix partner for resistance management. Any other questions? Okay, so if you put it in cold storage, you are doing almost the best thing you can do to preserve your residues. The only thing you could do better would be to freeze it. So when you freeze it, you stop. There's 3 things right off the top of my head that break down residues: sunlight, heat, time, and then microbial breakdowns. And different products break down differently for each of those factors. But the minute you take it out of the light, the minute you cool it down, or you freeze it, or you put some kind of wash on it, those are all things that will work to preserve residues. So what you ought to assume is whatever your residues are at the time you pick it, it's pretty much what your residues are. The rate of degradation in refrigeration, I don't know, slows down, I don't know, 95%. If you freeze it, it's 99.9% or something like that. I mean, what we do when we pull our samples, we put them in a freezer to stop the degradation. I mean, if you really want to stop you put it in at -40, and that's get -40, it goes to 0. But if you put it at 20, it 99% reduction in the rate of degradation. Last call for questions. All right, thank you.
All right, thanks, Alan. So we're gonna have a short break, and the keynote speakers will be in this room at 11. Pesticide credits are over here at the table, and please take your surveys over there as well.